or I got banned from family vacation with my dad and stepmom for indefinitely from the way we behaved on the cruise from hell. When I was a kid, I was a very well-behaved kid, but as soon as I morphed into my teenage years, I became an angry, entitled asshole. And it escalated really quickly to the point where when I was like 16 and 17, I'd be like driving on my way to school with a joint in one hand, a cigarette in the other, and a beer in my lap. I worked at Piggly Wiggly. I'm from Tennessee. I worked at Piggly Wiggly as a cashier, and I would steal cartons of Marlboros and then like exchange it for bumps of Coke. It just went like from here to here real quick. When I would hook up with my boyfriend in my driveway, like I'd have to be home at 11 o'clock, and I would hook up with him in the back of his 4Runner from 11 o'clock until whenever I felt like it. And my mom would like send Fifi Marie Hamlett, our little poodle, outside to bark at us, and she like flipped the porch lights, and I'd just be like, I'm coming, not really coming in another way. So I was just a jerk. And actually, I was so bad that I got kicked off of, or I got banned from family vacation with my dad and stepmom for indefinitely from the way we behaved on the cruise from hell. So I was like destined to get busted. I deserved to get busted. And on June 19th, 1995, my friend Allison and I decided to go shoplifting because we're jerks. And we had drugs on us, and we totally got arrested. And we went straight to juvie. Luckily, I was not quite 18. And, they did the whole thing where they like made me like bend over and pull my butt cheeks apart and cough to make sure I didn't have anything in my butt. And they put on the orange suit, and I had to sleep in the cell by myself. And the next morning, my mom came and got me. And on the drive home, it was like totally silent until she picks up her cell phone, which back then was a giant suitcase with like a cord and whatever. And she called my dad's house and was like, Mary Margaret, this is Judy. You and Bob need to be at my house at 5 o'clock tonight, and don't be late. And she just hung up the phone and started crying. Now, two things are a really big deal about this. First of all, she hasn't said my stepmom's name in like 14 years because she hates the bitch. She's never forgiven her for stealing my dad from her for their 3-year affair. She's used she and her as the name what we call her for years. The other thing is that she's crying, and I never saw my mom cry. She never, and even at her mother's funeral, she always like kept it together. I'm sure she cried plenty of times in private. So for her to do that in front of me, I was like, oh my God, this is bad news. But I knew why she was crying because I was sentenced to house arrest, and I was going to be on house arrest indefinitely, and she's crying because she realized that she's got to spend 24 hours a day with me, 7 days a week indefinitely, and I'm such an asshole to her. For instance, it was to the point where we couldn't even talk to each other. I would talk through the dog, Fifi. Like, I'd be like laying on the ground in the den watching TV, and my mom would be like, you need to do your homework, and I'm like, whatever, just a jerk. And then she'd be like, say always meant Fifi's talking. She'd be like, I think Melanie should do her homework. And I'd be like, I think Melanie should watch Law and Order. And we go back and forth like this because my mom knew I'd never be a bitch to the dog, So Fifi was like our ambassador. And then my boyfriend at the time had this great idea to get tattoos, dreamcatcher tattoos, and on acid, by the way, which is an awful, painful thing to do. And I was like, that's stupid. But I was like, but that'll piss my mom off. So I'm stuck with this thing forever. It's so dumb. It doesn't make any sense. Dreamcatcher on my stomach. Anyway, so my mom is like crying because she's got to live with me all the time. So when Mary Margaret and my dad show up that day at 5 o'clock, there's a lot of tension in the air. And she puts them on the couch, and we sit there. She takes a deep breath, and she just like lays into them. I've raised these kids by myself for 14, just goes off. This is like 14 years of rage and resentment that she never got to say. And my dad and stepmother are like sinking into the couch like, why are we here? What is happening? And when she's done, she just like, does the southern, okay, all right, now Melanie's got something she's got to tell you. I'm like, thanks, Mom. I'll take it away. So I'm telling him, I'm like, so I just got arrested. I'm on house arrest for at least 3 months. I'm on state probation for at least a year. I'm going to get drug tests for at least a year, and I'm banned from the mall for the rest of my life. And they're like, said nothing and just kind of looked shocked. And then they looked at each other after a pause, and they started dying laughing. And my mom and I are like, why are they laughing? And my stepmom finally goes, I'm so sorry, Judy. This isn't funny, but honestly, we could not figure out why. What could possibly call us, why you would want us at your house. We assumed that you were dying of cancer and that you wanted us to take over custody of Melanie. And my dad was like, yeah, there's no way in hell you let her in your house unless you were dying. And my mom's like, I'm not dying, you know. And it's this back and forth, and I'm like, yes, no one's dying, everybody. I just got arrested. No big deal, right? This is good news, you know. It reminds me of that scene in Steel Magnolias, you know, you say. Anyway, that's off point. So we start discussing the logistics of house arrest, and you know, they're going to take full custody of me, and so my mom can get a break from me, and we figure it all out like adults. And there's just this lightness in the air, and then we go to what's that awful place called? Red Lobster. We go and have dinner at Red Lobster together, like drinking sweet tea and eating shrimp, and like nothing's ever happened. Nothing ever happened here. And I call my sister that night. I'm like, you will not believe who I went to dinner with. And she's like, what? They're in the same room together? I'm like, yeah, they're like friends now. So that summer I actually became good friends, or not good friends, but I got to know my dad. I didn't really know him really up until that point, because I hated him. I was so mad at him. And now I was like hanging out with him. I watched like Murder in the First and all these really depressing house arrest movies. And my mom and I started like becoming friends now. Less Than Zero, that was another movie we watched, really enlightening. My mom and I could talk now. We were getting along because we weren't, you know, in each other's face all the time. And I got like straight A's that year. I got off house arrest early. I got off state probation early. I'm still banned from the mall. And I ended up going, you know, at high school, my high school graduation, everyone came and had dinner together, like we're old friends, you know. And then just like 5 years ago, my dad invited me back on family vacation. So I've been going on family vacation the last like 5 years. Of course, I'm still like act out in my own little ways, but it's legal now. But basically, the moral of the story is if you want to get your parents to forgive each other, be an asshole and get arrested, and then everything will be cool. I totally saved my family. Thank you.